Welcome to the Cohn Zone. That's my dad, Lowell Cohn. I'm his son, Grant Cohn, and we're going to be talking about the 49ers today. They did their draft. We can now assess the roster big picture. We had a question a few weeks ago, are the Niners as good as they were at the end of last season? Now we know what their roster looks like. Should we break it down?
Yeah, well, hold on a minute. I want to just say a few preliminary remarks.
I
have to admit that I've never been interested in the draft.
Right.
I never have. I mean, I've covered it probably 40 times, and I never even really knew where famous players went to college. You know, I'd always have to look it up in the media guide. I'm not interested in college sports. And my attitude about these rookies is let's see how they play. Let's see how they do in the big show. So we have 6 topics today. Our first 3 are about the draft. I'm going to ask Iggy some questions because he's the expert and I'm an idiot.
I tried.
Well, you're terrific. So anyway, we had agreed that after the season, because of people who left the team, the Niners were not as good as they were last season. Yep. Now they've had the draft. Have they reached the level based on the draft? Have they reached the level they had achieved at the end of last season in terms of a quality team?
I'm going to give my answer, but just like my dad said, I'm not a huge draft guy. I do my homework, but I don't really know what these kids are going to do. This is my perception of what the Niners did in the draft. This is my perception. They drafted a bunch of players who have a lot of potential, upside. They went full upside in this draft, but all of them except for one, if you read their scouting report, is like needs to add some strength, needs to work on his technique, but the potential is through the roof. So it seems like they drafted a bunch of guys with an eye towards 2023. So I don't even really think that this draft class is going to change much. I think the question of are they as good as they were last season kind of depends on players they drafted last year. Can I go through it? Please. So, like, for example, they signed Charvarius Ward, cornerback. They upgraded at corner. They start there. They upgraded at corner. They also upgraded their special teams. But then they let a bunch of veterans leave. Strong safety Tart, nickelback K'Wan Williams, left guard Laken Tomlinson, right tackle Tom Compton. Jimmy Garoppolo isn't gone yet, but he probably isn't the starter anymore. And DJ Jones and Arden Key. It's seven vets that are no longer in the picture. So I think it depends on, is Talanoa Hufanga a good strong safety? Is Diamador Lenore a good nickelback? Is Aaron Banks a good left guard? Is Mike McGlinchey going to be good coming off this injury? Is Trey Lance good? How many of the 6 unknown young guys are going to be as good or better than the guys they're replacing? And so right now, I would have to guess, I think Lance could be better than Jimmy. After that, I don't know. I really don't know. Javon Kinlaw, the guy they drafted in the first round a couple of years ago, if he could stay healthy, he might be as good as DJ Jones and Arden Key. Maybe that's 2. But the Niners seem to be really, really banking on a lot of guys they drafted in like round 3, 4, 5, couple years ago. I don't know. It seems like they're kind of going young. And my guess is that maybe in 2 years, they could be a Super Bowl contender. But right now, it seems like they took a little bit of a step back. That's the way I see it.
Okay, so we both agreed that they weren't as good at after the season ended when they lost people as they were last season. And you're saying the draft may have made up for some of that, but some of it is still speculation because we don't know how good these people will be. So they're placing a lot of their production in faith and hope.
Faith and hope and competition and coaching and basically betting on themselves. If we have 4 young guys that we drafted, there'll be a competition. One guy will emerge and he'll be good. Maybe. Or maybe you'll just have competition between a bunch of guys and someone will start, but he won't really be a great starter. Last year was interesting. They didn't want this last year. Last year, they said they're a championship roster. They had to have an entrenched vet at every spot. This year, it's like, well, we'll see. We'll let some young guys compete. So I think that kind of just shows you how they're approaching the season differently. They're not tanking or anything, but they have essentially a rookie quarterback who's very young, and I think they don't know what to expect from this year.
Unproven.
And he's unproven. And so they're like, okay, well, if we're going to go with an unproven quarterback, why don't we go unproven at left guard, nickelback, strong safety, defensive tackle? And if all those guys work out, then this team could be better than last year. If not, maybe it's like one small step back to take 2 steps forward in a couple of years when Trey Lance actually has some experience.
Here's a follow-up question. based on what you see now, including the people they drafted and the undrafted free agents, in the NFC West, would you rank the Niners second or third?
Well, the Cardinals' top wide receiver just got suspended for PDs last night.
Yep.
I was actually saying, I think the Cardinals are better than the Niners, but without DeAndre Hopkins, forget that team. I would say the Niners are probably second in the NFC West, and the NFC in general is really down. So the Niners could be a playoff team this year, even if they're worse than last year. They could be.
That's a very interesting point.
Yeah.
So even if they're not quite as good, the NFC is a little diluted,
Yes.
and they're a factor. And I want to say again, could have a very interesting and dramatic season, as they did last season.
Absolutely. And what was interesting is they started off 3-5 last season. They went on this amazing tear down the stretch. Some of the key guys are gone from that, but I think the key guy from that stretch was Deebo, and for now he's still here. And they might upgrade at quarterback. So maybe forget everyone else. If Trey Lance is significantly better than Jimmy Garoppolo, this team is better than last year. How about that? The quarterback.
I love it.
Forget everyone else. Yeah.
I would also remind our viewers of one thing. Obviously, I did sports writing for a long time, and I covered all the Bay Area teams. For me, the biggest story and the most joy always came from covering the Niners. And if I had been covering them last season as Iggy did, I would have been thrilled. Would have been thrilled.
Yes.
They really provide a lot.
When they started off 3-5, it was gratifying. I felt like I was right about them. And then when they went on that run, it proved me wrong in a lot of respects. But at the same time, I was glad to be proven wrong. It was nice to cover a team that was good and going places as opposed to a team that was falling apart in October. I really enjoyed last season. It was fun.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to move along.
Let's move along.
Another draft question for you. And again, I don't have the slightest idea.
Real quick, do you hear my door like shutting, slamming every minute or two?
No.
Should I close that? Okay, good. Never mind. Good. All right, we're good.
No, I don't hear it.
Good.
Is my sound coming out good?
It sounds great. You look good. You got a good background. I got to get my background up.
Like Iggy's bedroom when he was a kid. You could even see Spider-Man behind me and
Spider-Man.
Okay.
And Tintin.
Tintin. Okay. In the draft.
Yes.
Who was the best player they took?
Okay. It's the first pick. Their defensive end in round 2, Drake Jackson from USC. Now, this guy's really young. He's younger than Trey Lance. He's 21 years old. He fluctuated weight. He didn't have a ton of sacks in college, but basically what they say about him is he has all the things you can't teach. He has long arms. He's explosive. He just needs to get stronger. So on the Niners, those kind of defensive ends usually work out because they have the best defensive line coach in the league, Chris Kasarik. So he's a project. He probably won't do a ton his rookie year. He'll probably be like a guy who comes in on third down sometimes. So he'll play a little bit. He can get some sacks, but in a couple of years, he could be a starter opposite Bosa. And if anything gets weird and Bosa doesn't want to be on this team the way Deebo doesn't, apparently, this guy could potentially replace him in a couple of years. So I think this guy, Drake Jackson, has the potential to be a hell of a pass rusher, which is always a good thing to get at the end of round 2.
Why did he last that long?
Yes, because at USC, I think they had a bunch of different coaches and a bunch of different defensive coordinators, and he went there as a 270-pound defensive end, and then the next defensive coordinator comes in and runs a 4-3 and says, actually, you got to play outside linebacker, lose 20 pounds. He's like, sir, yes, sir, and all of a sudden he's 250, learning anew, dropping into coverage, and I think the Niners feel like, I don't know what the hell they were doing at USC, but our scheme, our coach, that, ball of that talent, we know exactly what to do with that guy, and we won't waste him like you. I think that's what they're thinking.
Okay, so we want to give the Niners credit for seeing the potential in this player.
Yes.
And for being bold. And we want to not give USC credit for screwing them up.
Right. Now, I would give this pick an A or an A-. I might say A- because it doesn't fill a need. I mean, this team has lots of needs, particularly offensive line. The guys who protect the quarterback, who's really important. That's their weakest position. D-line is their strongest position. And they added to it, which, God love them. They were 5th in sacks last year. Maybe they'll be even better this year. But you had a weakness on the offensive line. You had a weakness in the secondary in the sense that you really never intercept passes. And you added to your pass rush. Great. You got another good pass rusher. Pass rush is important. But it's interesting, right? It's like they're very much a specific brand of football, and they stuck to it.
Well, they just got Jason Verrett re-signed.
Okay, let's see how many games he plays this year.
I understand. You're
Yeah.
skeptical of his durability.
Yeah, I would have to say. I don't even know if he's going to make the team. He's 30, almost 31 years old. He's torn his ACL twice. He's torn his Achilles. I mean, we'll see.
Okay.
We'll see.
All right. Fair enough.
Okay.
But if he can play, if he can play, we'll see if he can play. It's a stupid question. I'm
Yes.
going to move on.
Okay.
You just named the best player they took, worst player they took.
Okay. To me, it's the very next pick. In round 2, they took Drake Jackson, a guy who could become a really good defensive end, premium position. The next round, they took a running back, Ty Davis Price, that most people had ranked later. So I don't know. I'm guessing it was a Kyle Shanahan draft crush. He just had to have him. And in saying, I have to have this guy, they took him way early. So there was no doubt that they would get him. Al Davis used to do stuff like that. He would tell his guys, these are 7 guys I want. Get him. And so he's like, well, I guess we got to draft him around early. Otherwise, we won't get him. And I'll be mad at me. So to me, it was a reach. It was a running back in round 3. They traded up for a running back last year. He's not like Mostert. He's not fast like Mostert. He's another guy like Elijah Mitchell and Jeff Wilson Jr. is another running back like they already have. And in taking a running back at that spot, they passed on 2 safeties who would have been great. Or I don't know, who would have been pretty good, I think. Nick Cross, Kirby Joseph, one of the 2. They could have had a safety who could compete for a starting spot. Instead, they got a running back, and he's not a project. He better be really good right now.
Why do you think they took a running back and not a safety?
They haven't drafted a defensive back before round 3 since Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch have gotten here. I think it's a little bit of like a philosophical thing. Like, we don't value secondary. We don't value safeties very much. I think they feel that the running back position is more important. And I think they feel they needed to take some of the load off of Deebo Samuel. Not only was Deebo the home run hitter, but he was a short yardage guy because he's 220 pounds or something. So now I think they have a guy who can take, I don't know, Dad. I don't understand how Kyle Shanahan thinks sometimes. I mean, this pick is an admission that his running back pick last year was a mistake. They got a guy in round 3 last year, Trey Sermon. And now the very next year you take another one. Like, well, that guy sucked. But we got this guy. It's like, well, maybe you should stop drafting running backs and just, I don't know. It just seemed very strange.
I have another question.
Yes.
John Lynch, God love him. In the NFL, what position did he play?
Safety.
You said that philosophically they don't want to draft defensive backs and safeties. He was a safety.
He was a safety.
I don't get it.
I don't get it. Now, he was a 3rd round pick. Maybe he thinks if the great John Lynch couldn't go in the first 2 rounds, no safety should. I don't get it. It's really strange. They drafted a safety last year in round 5, and they act like he's Ronnie Lott. Talanoa Hufanga is such an amazing player. Went to USC. He trains with Troy Polamalu. He knows Troy Polamalu. He's not Troy Polamalu, but they talk like he is. It's kind of strange. I don't know. Okay. I didn't like this pick at all. The running back in round 3.
Is he a good running back?
I don't know. I mean, I was looking at his tape, and he had some really stinkeroo games. He had one good year in college. Here's what I've noticed. He had one phenomenal game. Kyle loves a running back who had one phenomenal game. He played against Florida this year and had 287 yards. That's a lot of yards on the ground, 287. Okay. Trey Sermon last year, he had a game against Northwestern where he went for 331. Niners drafted him. Remember Joe Williams in 2017? They traded up in round 4. He had a game against UCLA where he went for 331. If you go for like more than 280 in a game, Kyle Shanahan's drafting you in round 3. That's all he needs to see. One good game.
Okay. I like your use of the word stinkeroo.
Stinkeroo.
Stinkeroo is a good one.
Stinkeroo. I think I got that from you. It seems like a Brooklyn.
My mom used to say it. My mom, Eve, she used to say stinkeroo. And it used
what
to
context did I use it in just now? So-and-so player was a stinkeroo or what?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Francisco has something real. He says Deebo liked a BR post that said he was staying. Well, I'll have to check that out. Inside the life of social media posts of Deebo Samuel. It's hard. What's next?
No, hold on.
Sure.
Tell me the second best draft pick they had.
The second best draft pick they had. Okay. I can do this. The second best draft pick they had is a 6th round pick, the 220th pick in the draft. His name is Kalia Davis. He's another defensive lineman, and he's a project. He tore his ACL last year, Dad. He's probably not even going to play this year. But one of these guys where he's
Niners draft choice.
Exactly. Yeah. With the ACL guy. I like the ACL guy because you don't take the ACL guy in round 3. You take him in round 6. The 220th pick, great, fine, who cares? So you took him. He'll probably stay, on IR the first year, but he's got talent. And the Niners have this great D-line coach. That guy could end up being a starter for them in a couple of years. The defensive tackle, Kalia Davis.
Okay. Last question on the draft. Who's the
Yeah.
second worst pick they
I was
made?
hoping you'd ask me that question. Okay. They took a cornerback in round 5, but I don't want to. That's deep. Round 5, who cares? Let's talk round 3. The second, they took 2 picks in round 3. They took the running back, that was ridiculous originally, that they could have gotten later. And then they took a wide receiver. This wide receiver is very fast. But other than that, he's a dead ringer for Dante Pettis. Yes. And they're saying, oh, no, this guy's tough, though, unlike Dante. But when Pettis came out, they said he was tough. They're like, Pettis, a punt returner. He had 9 punt returns for touch. You can't return punts if you're not tough. Well, that's the Pac-12. He came to the NFL and realized that I get hit way harder here. This is scary. And then, you know what I'm saying? I mean, it was over right away. Like all that toughness that Dante Pettis thought he shut, that was gone. This guy, he seems like a faster version of Dante Pettis, and they're going to say, oh, he's a deep threat. I doubt he plays his rookie year. I'm skeptical that he'll ever be anything for this team because, like Dante, if you can't go over the middle and all you do is like one thing, you're probably not going to play very much. So I'm curious about the wide receiver Danny Gray in round 3.
Where did he go to college?
SMU. He catches the ball with his chest, and he's got to play with Trey Lance, who throws the ball harder than most quarterbacks. It seems like a bad fit. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. So I'm going to go with Danny Gray, although Niner fans love that guy. So I'm sorry, Niner fans.
Why do Niner fans? Oh, because he's fast.
Because he's fast. And Kyle Shanahan picked him.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. But the way I interpret that little back-to-back pick, the running back and the wide receiver is, say something really bad happened with Deebo Samuel and the Niners can't work it out. Well, they got a running back, they got a wide receiver. Because you got to replace them with 2 players. I'm not saying that'll come to that, but if it comes to that, they're prepared.
Okay. That was our segment on the draft. Thank God. I want to move on.
Real quick, Jesse says this pick is to ensure Deebo doesn't have to play running back. The O-line draft picks have legit ceilings. I get you have a job to do, but if you actually scout, you'll see. They do have legit ceilings. That's what I said. I just think they're a year away. Thank you for your comment. All right, what's next, Dad?
Okay. I want to come back to Deebo because I've been thinking about him a lot.
All right.
You were chatting a few days ago with one of your, on the Cohn phone. And you said that Deebo has leverage because he has to fulfill certain minimum requirements. Let's just leave some of them out, but he would have to play 6 games. And then you're saying he might consciously say he had an injury, shut himself down, and screw the Niners, and he could go somewhere else the next year.
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I admit that I haven't been in a locker room in 5 years because I've been retired. But I certainly know how football locker rooms work or used to work.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So I'm dating myself.
Sure.
When the Niners were a really great team, if someone absented himself and wouldn't play, there would be hell to pay in the locker room. He would be perceived as a quitter because a football team is different than, let's say, a baseball team.
Mm-hmm.
You're an army. You're like an army, and you need everyone to do his part. Mm-hmm. And I can tell you that if someone was perceived as a malingerer, Ronnie Lott would have called out his ass, or Russ Francis would have called him out. There would have been discipline in the locker room. Even though they might have had sympathy for him with his contract, they would no longer have sympathy if he was a malingerer. And I'm saying if he does that stuff this coming season, there's going to be hell to pay for him in that locker room. And it would be a big mistake.
Okay. I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're saying. Let me try to bring it from a different perspective. I think it's a generational thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for example, last year, Deshaun Watson requested a trade, kind of like how Deebo Samuel has requested a trade. Then all those lawsuits came out. He didn't play for an entire year. It wasn't his choice. Didn't play for an entire year. He didn't get indicted. He didn't have to go to criminal court. Got traded. Got a fully guaranteed contract worth $230 million. So it didn't hurt him. And I think players are looking at him like, well, damn, if Deshaun Watson can do it, even with those lawsuits over his head, then why can't I? I mean, if they do it in the NBA, if you can do it in the MLB, when? I mean, we always knew that the NFL, the players union, the NFL is really not strong. It's getting stronger. They're getting more power. And I think this is eventually going to happen more and more. Now, we'll see. It's a test case. If Deebo Samuel holds out, like plays 6 games and shuts himself down, will teams look at him as like, I don't want to pay that guy anymore? See, I don't think so. If Deshaun Watson can get the money, I think teams will look at Deebo and say, well, he's only 27. He didn't play last year. I'll pay him. I think it just takes one team. I think there'd be multiple teams that would pay him. Maybe I'm wrong. And if he does that, it really hurts the 49ers. I mean, the Niners are essentially calling his bluff. You won't do that, Deebo. You have to play. You want your value to be the highest. If he does it and says, I can live with the results, can the Niners live with the results? How good are they without Deebo? I think it's scary.
Hold on.
Yes.
I don't agree with the comparison you're making to Deshaun Watson.
Why?
Because Deshaun Watson did not shut himself down.
Okay.
The league shut him down. Okay. So it's not a fair comparison.
Okay.
So I respectfully throw that out.
Okay.
I don't count it. Again, I'm not talking about whether a team would take him in 2023, Deebo Samuel. I'm talking about the 2022 season in that locker room. My experience in a football locker room is they will make his life miserable.
What are they going to do? Haze him?
Okay. Ignore him. These are his teammates. Ignore him. Have horrible things to say to him to his face. Make his life a living hell. That's what I think would happen. Now, maybe not with modern athletes, or I should say current athletes. Teams that I covered, you think Ronnie Lott was going to sit around there and say, oh, you have a beef and you're pretending, I think you're pretending you have an injury, but God love you. Ronnie Lott, who had his finger cut off so he could continue to play? No. I think a football locker room is different from an NBA locker room. I think it's an army. And I think Deebo Samuel, if he does it, will regret it for the rest of his life.
But
and
Dad, he doesn't want to be in this army. He doesn't want to play for this team. What does he care? George Kittle says to him in the locker room.
Okay.
I'm just saying it from his perspective. He literally doesn't want to play for this team anymore. Has made it public. Okay, so if his, I think he's already burned the bridge. I think he's saying, I don't care what any player on this team thinks of me. Am I wrong? Why would you request the trade if you didn't feel that way?
Yeah, you may be right. It's not entirely clear to me. Again, I'm not inside. Maddie Mayoko, I saw you said he wrote that it's personal. Maddie has not, I don't know what the deal is. I haven't read it. Maddie hasn't mentioned it to me. I still think he and his agent may be trying to leverage the Niners to get a better deal. And he may be just as happy to play for the Niners as the Jets or anyone else. He'd be nuts not to want to play for the Niners, a team that is a very good team. I'm not so sure he doesn't want to play for them. If this is a negotiating tactic and he shuts himself down, I think he's going to have a hard life next season. And you're saying that teams would actually want him after he showed himself to be a malingerer?
Yes.
Okay, I can't argue with that.
Is he a malingerer or does he just not want to play for the 49ers? Because what the Niners are basically saying is, we can't get Deebo on the phone. He won't return our phone calls. He won't negotiate with us. We don't know why. We don't know what his issue is. He hasn't made it clear. All we know is that he doesn't want to play for us anymore.
Okay, so let's say I'm the Jets.
Mm-hmm.
I hate when people say I'm the Jets.
I'm the Jets, right?
I'll never be the Jets.
Yes.
Let's imagine the Jets. And we know they wanted him. We know they wanted him. Then he pulls a malingering thing. I think the general manager over there should say, he could do the same thing to us.
He could.
He could.
Although maybe he won't.
He could do it again.
It's possible. And I think it would turn off some teams. I'm just predicting. I'm not saying how teams should react. I'm guessing there would be a team that would be willing to pay Deebo.
Okay.
I'm just saying. I mean, if a team was willing to pay Deshaun Watson with all that stuff going over, I mean, he's a quarterback, true, but still, Deebo's an MVP candidate. He's really, really, really good. I think a team would be willing to pay him. Maybe not as much as if he played the entire season like a good soldier and just bit his lip and did what he was told, but I still think he'd make a lot of money. And I know the Niners are thinking they're going to call his bluff on this one and say, in your own interest, you're going to play. If they're wrong, they really hurt themselves this year. Really hurt themselves this year. That's all I'm saying.
Agree. I want to say I'm on the side of the 49ers.
Okay.
If what you're surmising, and we have no idea what he's going to do, but if he pulls a fast one and says, gee, I hurt my hammy, or I can't, if he does that, the hell with him. I'm with the 49ers, and I would lose total respect for him.
Yeah, fine. I'm not on Deebo's team. What I'm saying is if he does that, and I'm not going to praise the Niners when they make the playoffs and say, oh, well, like it's Deebo's fault. No, he told you he want to play for you. You held on to him and thinking that Kyle could work it out with him. That was crazy. You should have traded him. If you should have traded him. That's all I'm saying. Like if they can work it out, great. If Deebo's bluffing, great. If not, and they miss the playoffs because something weird happens with Deebo and he literally holds himself out after 6 games, that's on you. You told yourself you could work it out. You could have traded him on the draft night for any wide receiver in the draft and just moved on and had someone who was Trey's age and wanted to be here. But no, you thought you could work it out. That's all I'm saying. I'm not taking sides here. I'm just trying to predict how this is going to end up.
I agree with your last point.
Yeah.
I think it's a great point, and it shows, again, that you're smarter than I am. You're very smart.
I appreciate it. Look, do you think they'll work it out? Because John Lynch went on the radio yesterday and said he thinks he's going to work it out with Deebo. Of course, Deebo's not returning his calls, but
I think they're going to work it out.
Okay, good. That would be good. That would be a good step because so far this offseason has been kind of silly.
Now, wait. Hold on.
Go ahead.
And we do have a bet on that, and I want to make sure we understand. The bet is not whether or not he'll be on the team, but whether he'll sign an extension to play next season. That's the bet. Right. You're saying he may play, but no extension. Yes. I'm saying he'll sign an extension.
That is the bet. And we have another bet that we're going to talk about in a minute. Let's just take some comments real quick. Shardal says, hey, Grant, what are your Mother's Day plans? We don't have any yet. We will do something in honor of my mom, I'm sure. Thank you for asking. Ken Martin says, Samuel Womack in 2019 and 2021, he was second place with pass breaks up. In 2020, he was 7th place with most pass breakups. Okay, yeah. So the Niners drafted a corner in round 5 that wasn't invited to the combine, and none of the draft gurus really knew who he was. But maybe he's good. Mike Got the Gun said, Deebo liked the post on Instagram, BR Gridiron on Staying with the Niners. Sorry if you covered this already. I'm late. Okay, well, that's interesting information. Maybe Deebo Samuel is about to work it out with the 49ers. Jay says, if Deebo hates the Niners, why would Deebo make and wear a shirt that says Deebo is back with him in the Niners uniform during the draft? He actually made that shirt before the draft. That's why he made it before the draft. I think the thing about Deebo is he's profiting off this whole thing. His social media followers have doubled. He's selling shirts. He really needs money, Dad. He's selling merch. Some that says wide back, some that says Deebo's back. I think I'm gonna start selling merch too. Just saying. You want to buy a shirt?
I'll buy a shirt.
Buy a shirt. I'm selling merch. All right, let's talk about the Jimmy bet.
Okay, say what the Jimmy bet is.
I think Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be on this team this year. You don't. You think the Niners are going to get rid of Jimmy?
The bet is that on the first regular season game, I'm saying Jimmy will no longer be on the roster, and you're saying he will.
Yes.
And so we're betting a Beaujolais at least $35.
Yes. So John Lynch went on KMBR yesterday and was asked about this. And again, he reiterated, we're not cutting Jimmy. We're not going to cut him. We were close to trading him before he had the surgery. That derailed everything. He's either going to be on our team or we're going to get the value from him in a trade, is what he said. Now, he could change his mind, but it seems like the Niners have said that publicly so many times that it would be pretty tough to change their mind and cut him. Maybe a trade market emerges late, but it seems like every team has their starting quarterback now, except for Seattle. So do you still think that Jimmy Garoppolo is going to get cut or traded?
Yes.
Why?
I think, okay. Because to have him on the roster when the regular season starts is a form of football suicide.
Agree.
And as inept as the 49ers front office is, and dude, they are inept. I don't think they're completely insane.
That's a great argument. That's a great argument because my argument rests on the logic that they are completely insane.
So what we're talking about is degrees of insanity.
Yeah, I just feel like the fact that he's still on the roster to this day is completely insane. Completely insane that he's still on the roster. So I don't know.
So you're saying that they'll just continue down the lane of insanity. Yes. And I'm saying at some point that they're going to detour at some point toward the end.
At some point, miles down this road, they'll realize, wow, this is the insanity road. It's not too late to turn back. It's not. But the thing is, the Niners think there's going to be a payoff at the end. If they, let's say the option is cut him, or maybe someone offers like, we'll give you a 6th-round pick for Jimmy Garoppolo. They could just keep him. And if he leaves in free agency next year, they would get a compensatory pick the year after from the NFL after round 3 or 4, just a free pick. And the Niners could say, we'll take it. Ridiculous. It's insane. It's insane. It's insane.
Okay. I hear what you're saying. Iggy, all I'm thinking is Trey Lance is the starter. Jimmy Garoppolo is standing on the sideline.
Yeah.
Jimmy Garoppolo is pissed. It's not like, he may smile and stuff, but he's pissed.
Yes.
And he's saying to guys.
Yes.
He's saying to Kittle.
You're open.
I'm better. I could, you go across the middle. I'm good.
Yeah.
So that's happening. One.
Yeah.
That's not talk about a locker room. Now you have a locker room in chaos.
Yeah, Jimmy could walk over to Deebo. I would have thrown it to you on that. You were open on 3rd and 7. Yeah, this guy sucks. Yep.
Yeah. Now the other thing is, if Trey Lance has some bad games, because remember he's just really a rookie.
Yeah.
And then they put Jimmy in. Now you've lost Trey Lance.
Yes.
Now he's the one you've lost.
And that's your 1st-round pick next year too.
You've crushed him.
Yeah.
So there are so many, I'm going to say, downsides to keeping him. But again, if they are as insane as you think they are, God love them, keep them. And boy, would that be something to comment on. You'd get so many more viewers if they keep Jimmy.
Dad, if I told you before the offseason that the Niners would have the option to cut Jimmy Garoppolo and use $17.5 million in cap space immediately and another $7.5 million later on when he passes a physical. If I told you they could do that and they chose not to and they didn't sign that many free agents, would you believe me?
I would think you were insane.
I would think you're insane, right? No team would do that. And I think that's what Jimmy was thinking. I think Jimmy and his agent were thinking, look, if you have this surgery right before free agency, the Niners will have to cut you because they're not insane. They're going to want to spend the cap space. They've budgeted. They think they're going to trade you. They want to sign some players. So you have surgery. They won't be able to trade you. They'll cut you so they can execute their plan. The Niners are like, no, we're crazy. We're insane. You miscalculated. We're insane. We're willing to take this to the end of time. That's what I feel.
Right. You're giving us credit for being sane, but that's weird.
We don't care. We didn't even, I still feel the fact that they're going with so many young players makes me feel like they're not contending this year, but their eyes are to the future. They're looking at 2023, 2024 when Trey Lance has a little experience. This year it's like, oh, we missed free agency this year. Who cares? We don't even know if our quarterback's any good. Who cares? We know nothing about our team.
And we're spending less.
Yes. We planned to spend less this year. So, joke's on you, buddy. I think I'm winning this bet, Dad. I'm very confident.
Okay.
The insanity clause.
It's the insanity clause.
They should make Jimmy a tight end like Tim Tebow. Oh, boy. No. Jimmy's future is in commercials. I think he's a natural. I'm sorry. Deebo for Derrick Henry, fair trade.
Didn't Derrick Henry get hurt?
Yeah, you know why? Because running backs get hurt.
Yeah.
No, don't do that. Jay Rico says, if Deebo hates the Niners, why would Deebo make and wear a shirt that says Deebo is back with him in the Niners uniform during the draft? So you'll buy it?
I don't know. Coming back.
Yeah, maybe he's coming back. Maybe you just bought it. Oh, we got that. Okay, let's go to the last topic.
Wait, I want to ask you a question.
Yeah.
You know how by my house, there's a lot of vegetation and they have to get rid of it, before the fire inspection?
Yes.
So Mr. Tran is out there, with his and doing it.
I hear him.
Is it interrupting? Is it hurting?
No, it's charming.
You can hear it though.
A little bit.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
I love Mr. Tran. Once a month. I just remember was it once a month? How long is it?
Yeah, once a month.
Once a month.
Forever.
Tran. Yeah, he's thorough.
Okay. This was the bonus topic, and this was my topic. Are the Yorks a good ownership group? Now, I think this is a fairly polarizing topic, and you would expect Iggy and me to come out. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to run it like a graduate seminar.
Yes.
First, we're going to present a case that they are a good ownership. We're not going to raise our voices. We're just going to talk like grown-ups.
Yeah.
Then we're going to present the counter argument that they're not a good ownership.
Yeah.
And you take it for what it's worth. So, Iggy, let's start. Yes, the Yorks are a good ownership group, and let's go back and forth. You, if you'd like, you can go first.
Okay, I think a lot of people would say that coming after the DeBartolos is tough. That maybe the nostalgia for the past works against the Yorks. In retrospect, the DeBartolos could do no wrong. They won every year, and the Yorks can't measure up. When really, if you take the DeBartolos out of the equation, the Yorks have had a team that's been to 5 NFC championships and 2 Super Bowls in 20 years. Not that many teams can say that. Now, they haven't won a Super Bowl yet, but they could. They've gone through a lot of coaches, but DeBartolo went through a couple before he got Walsh, and now they have a coach that the rest of the league keeps hiring his assistants. I mean, Saleh, McDaniel, it seems like they have a coach that everyone wants to have. They do have a very good roster at D-line, linebacker, tight end, wide receiver, running back. I mean, they have a very good team in a lot of respects. They were one of the 4 best teams last year. I mean, they have a lot, and they make a lot of money. They're one of the most lucrative franchises in sports. They got a new stadium, something that DeBartolo never actually accomplished. There's a lot of things that they could be proud of.
I agree. I would. I have very little to add. Yeah. I would say they have kept the Niners relevant.
That's a great one too. They certainly have. Certainly have. I mean, right on the West Coast, at least, or in the Bay Area, they're the only team that really matters. I mean, the Warriors are in the playoffs right now. The Niners aren't doing anything, and the Niners are a bigger story.
They always are.
Always.
They always are the biggest story in the Bay Area. When I would write 49ers stuff, I always got, in the paper, more people read it than Giants, Warriors, whatever. They're the biggest story. So yes, they've kept them relevant, and they are a nationally relevant franchise. They're not just regional. They're like the Yankees are a national franchise. Dallas. Right. I say the Niners are more than the Rams.
I mean, we got people watching from all over the world right now. It's definitely a global franchise, and they've done a good job of giving us stuff to talk. We can talk about this team every day, all year. And now it's about that's what I do. We talk about Deebo Samuel, we talk about Jimmy. There's always something going on, a little bit of drama, a little bit of intrigue, which I appreciate. Thank you, Jed.
And Iggy, the thing that goes on feels important.
Yes, absolutely.
It feels important.
Yes. And it's like the fact that they did come after the DeBartolos means like it feels like our job is important. Like we're upholding a standard. We know what it used to be like, and we're making sure that you live up to it. And I like that. It's like everyone is really bought in with this team and making sure that they stand for what they used to stand for.
I certainly feel that. Again, I don't root one way or another, but when the Niners really suck and seem inept, which is not the case now,
no,
I find it offensive.
Because
I covered them when they were the greatest.
Yes.
And there is something to be said for high standards and excellence.
Yes.
In life.
I agree. And it's sort of, it feels like Bay Area excellence too. Like that's our excellence. We modernized football, and we should be on the cutting edge at all times. That's how we are out here. That's how it feels. I don't know. What do you think?
It's interesting that you say that, because the Bay Area, it's not like Philly or St. Louis where you think these are sports towns.
Yeah, blue collar town. Yeah.
It's a multiverse. There's so much here.
Yes.
There's the ballet, there's opera. And yet it's made a sports statement.
And yet it's a ravenous football town to the point where the Niners play in LA and it's a home game for them. Like no one cares about the Rams in LA. I mean, no one cared about the Raiders in LA 40 years ago when they were good. It's just not that kind of a place. I know you don't know LA as well as me, but like they don't freaking care. Even when you're good, it's like, is the stadium nice? Is it a nice day? Is it a glamorous thing to do? Maybe I'll just go to the beach instead. Up here, people really freaking care about professional football, aka the 49ers. They don't care about college football.
No, it's not a college. It's not like
they didn't care about the Raiders particularly much before the Raiders left. It was the Niners.
Yeah.
Niners. Yep.
Okay. Iggy, do you think that we've handled the pro 49er ownership well and completely?
I think so. I don't think we missed anything.
Okay, then let me ask you, and we'll go back and forth on this. You can go as long as you want. Why make a case that they're not a good ownership group?
I think what's so frustrating about them is although they're successful in certain ways, they make a lot of money. They fill their stadium. They made the playoffs 2 of the last 3 years. They don't necessarily seem to do whatever it takes to get over the hump and win the Super Bowl, like the last ownership group did, like champions usually do. Usually teams that win championships have someone in the front office or ownership group who is obsessed and has to be the best. Like Lacob's like that, right? Lacob has to be the best. He kind of has a little bit of a complex with it. DeBartolo had to be the best. Like, it seems like the Yorks, and I don't know if it's Jed or his mom or his parent, like the whole trio are just really cool, being one of the more lucrative franchises in the league. And as long as they're filling up Levi's, like, and going to the playoffs, hey, it's a crapshoot. You can't really knock us. So the fact that they went to the NFC Championship game last year and had this offseason where they kind of took a step back to take a step forward next year seems kind of insane to me. And I feel like there's a little bit of a lack of leadership, although they do certain things well. Like, what are they doing right now? It's just amazing to me.
Okay. I'm going to say something real bottom line. They've never won a Super Bowl. They've had a lot of time. They never won a Super Bowl. And again, one of their coaches who was on the Walsh Seifert bunch said to me one time after Harbaugh lost the Super Bowl, "Hey, Lowell, we never lost a Super Bowl." And he said it with great pride.
Yes.
We never lost a Super Bowl. These guys never won a Super Bowl. That's why you play.
Yep.
And
go ahead. Keep going. You're
they've been owners for like 20 years, Iggy?
Yeah, more. 23, 22. Yeah.
So to me, it's not damning, but it's certainly criticism. I have more to say.
Keep going. Keep going.
It's true that they have a new stadium. I'm not all that much in love with the stadium, but I will point out that it's in Santa Clara. The stadium should be in San Francisco. Well, you say, well, you can't get a stadium in San Francisco. The Warriors got a place in San Francisco, and they did it fast.
Yes.
They looked a lot later than the Niners were looking, and they got, apparently, I haven't been over to the Chase Center. I'm not going to go, but they got it on
a lot better than Levi's. I'll tell you that.
It's nicer than Levi's.
Oh, yeah, I would have to say.
So when you say, well, you can't get it in San Francisco, Joe Lacob did.
Yeah, Joe Lacob did. He did.
And the Giants, when they finally, got a really together, an aggressive ownership, let me say that. They did. And they have one of the most beautiful ballparks in the world.
Right.
The Warriors weren't even in San Francisco.
No.
They came from Oakland.
The Warriors benefited from the Niners' bad decision there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
like South of Market should be set up the way Seattle is. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. When we
that should be what South of Market is. And it is essentially, but the Niners missed out.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I'm saying never won a Super Bowl.
Right.
Had enough time to do it. Couldn't get a stadium in San Francisco. And I'm supposed to praise that. And I'm going to tell you something else, Ziggy.
Yes.
Long after I'm dead and Jed's an old guy, they're going to move back to San Francisco. And you're going to hear it. We realize that's where our heart is. We left our heart in San Francisco, and they're going to screw Santa Clara, and they're going to move back to San Francisco. I'm telling you.
Oh, there's no question. 20 years, 15. Yeah. I agree. I got more. They've never gotten the quarterback position right.
I was going to say that too.
Ever. And that's why they've never won a Super Bowl. They've had really good teams. They've had great pass rushers, offensive lines, linebackers. They've never gotten the quarterback position right. They inherited Jeff Garcia. That was Bill Walsh's final contribution to the franchise. Jeff Garcia. They ran him out of town. They replaced him with freaking Tim Rattay. They drafted Alex Smith over Aaron Rodgers. Now, I guess they're not making the football decisions, but they employed people who drafted Alex Smith over Aaron Rodgers. Alex Smith never went to a Pro Bowl with the 49ers. Colin Kaepernick never went to a Pro Bowl with the 49ers. Jimmy Garoppolo, never. They've never had a Pro Bowl quarterback. They had Garcia. Ever since they've replaced him, they've never had a Pro Bowl quarterback. That's like Cleveland Browns stuff. That's like Chicago Bears stuff. That's embarrassing. I mean, Eddie DeBartolo always had that position taken care of. Always.
Yes. And Bill's philosophy, Bill Walsh, you got to have the quarterback. And he had two of the greatest who ever lived. And this team never.
And then a third one who went to Pro Bowls and was really freaking good. 4 Pro Bowls, Jeff Garcia. None since he's been gone.
Yeah. So, yes, that was one of my points. It is a shame on them for never having a quarterback. Yeah. And that's really damning of this ownership.
And God forbid it doesn't work out with Trey Lance. I mean, if it works out with Trey Lance, great, who cares? But if he's another one, it's like you took this guy, then really, this ownership group looks foolish, very foolish. A lot rides on Trey Lance, a ton. I mean, I didn't have to say that.
I'm going to say something else.
Yeah.
Kyle Shanahan is a very good coach. When they had Bill Walsh, he changed football.
Yes.
The reason the 49ers are the biggest story still is because of what Bill Walsh did.
Yes.
He changed offense. As a result, defenses had to change.
Yes.
He actually changed football. As clever as Kyle Shanahan is, he's never made that kind of statement. He's just another clever coach. He's Sean Payton.
Yeah, he's clever. He hasn't changed football, but also Bill Walsh and Joe Montana both were at their best and biggest moments. When Kyle's gotten to the finish line a couple of times, he has tripped and fumbled the baton. Like he's had some really crazy finishes to his season. Bill didn't have that.
No,
I mean,
as I want to say, as neurotic as Bill was, when it came down to the crisis moment, he was calm. He had vision and he had guts, and he didn't make mistakes. What
do you think if Bill were alive? What do you think he would have thought of the Niners getting outscored 21-0 in the fourth quarter of the Super Bowl, losing a game they were up by 10 in the final quarter?
I would have had a phone call.
Yeah,
and there would have been a lot of expletives.
Yeah, you would have had a phone call, right? Yeah,
had a phone call, and I wouldn't have been the first one he called. He would have been called in the whole world.
That's right. Can you freaking believe it? But not freaking.
Yeah, can you freaking believe it? Can you? He would say things like,
"My team,
and he's not a game manager."
Yeah,
these are the things he used to say to me.
Yeah,
so and so, and I'm not going to give any names, is not a game manager, and he would also, so and so is not cutting edge.
Yeah, Kyler's cutting edge. He is cutting edge. I mean, a lot of people want his offense right now. I would have to say that his offense is probably one of the more cutting edge ones in the league, but not a game manager at all. Not a game manager. And I wonder if Bill would think Kyle's cutting edge. I would love to hear. Bill would probably be like, well,
right.
We were doing this 30 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree.
But you're right. His game management, Bill would have excoriated him. Although face to face, Bill would have smiled at him. But it would have been one of those smiles you would get in The Godfather. You know what I mean?
Let's finish up with the ownership group. This whole Jimmy thing, the fact that they're more concerned with like setting the narrative, explaining why they're not trading Jimmy than just getting rid of him, I think says a lot about this ownership group. What happened was Jed got this team at 27, and you and Ira just ruined him for years in print. I mean, not just you, Ira, Glenn, everyone, Clark Judge, all the entrenched journalists looked at him and made fun of him for years. You know you did, and he deserved it. And he's never forgotten it. And he's made it his mission in life to control the narrative about him, about the team, and he's really good at it. He's really freaking good at it. Now, he hasn't gotten to me yet. I can be bought $2 million. That's my price. I'm just saying, until he comes with a $2 million check, I'm going to be a thorn in his side. But really, he's very good at controlling the narrative. It's what I think it's his chief concern. What are people saying about me and this team? I got to make sure that everyone likes us and everyone thinks we're doing the right thing, whether or not we are. That's what he does. And
well, you know what, Jed? You should watch this segment, what we just said about you, and you'll hear praise and criticism. Yeah, I'm going to tell you something really irrelevant, but the first day that John York didn't talk to the media and Jed did, and it was clearly passing the baton to, and Jed was 27, you say?
Yes.
So Jed was wearing a tie and a jacket and nice pants.
Yes.
You know, I'm looking at him, right?
Yeah.
But he didn't polish his shoes. I remember thinking that, Iggy. They were scuffed, and they weren't sneakers. They were fancy shoes. You know what I mean? And I thought, geez, you're presenting yourself to us as the new owner. Polish your goddamn shoes. Like
it's like he had just been elected president of the fraternity, right? And he put on he got like the stuff he had in the closet, but that's the best he had.
I think that was it, right?
Yeah.
And they're like, he didn't want to get the kiwi wax, you know, the kiwi.
Oh, he just never thought of it before. He had never thought of actually people might look at my shoes.
And I was looking at his shoes.
Yeah.
I didn't say anything at the time because
you should have said something, Jed.
I'm a nice person.
You should have raised your hand and been like, Jed, what are those? What is going on your feet right now? How do you expect me to take you seriously with those shoes? Why don't you go back, polish your shoes, come in, and we'll start over? How about that?
Would you have noticed the shoes?
I'd be the guy with the scuffed shoes too. I would be that guy.
Yeah, but you're
might notice it
franchise. And look, maybe I'm being a schmuck. You people, you'll have to judge. Oh, and I've kept this for years. I haven't said it, but I looked and I thought,
the statute of limitations is up. It's been 15 years. You wore scuffed shoes 15 years ago, buddy. Own it. I like that. You can't call him a good ownership group until he gets better shoes.
Yeah, and he doesn't floor shine. He has to get better than floor shine.
Yeah,
let's get something
terrible.
better.
People notice. People don't forget. Jeremy says, "Can Ray do the same thing as Deebo?" No. We think. I mean, he could do the same things, but not nearly as well. So there's that. The Ramelia Sports Report says SC Niners haven't won a Super Bowl after the free agency era. This is the resident Rams fan. He's hilarious. He calls them the Santa Clara Niners, which is fair. Haven't won a Super Bowl in the free agency era. Actually, that's not true. Their last Super Bowl was the first year of the free agency. I'm just saying. Give Eddie D some credit. That's all we got.
Okay.
It was a good one.
We're having dinner together tonight?
We're having dinner together tonight. Yes. And I'll call you right after the show so we can talk specifics.
Okay. Iggy, this was really fun today. I love you.
Love you too. I'm glad we disagreed in a productive, polite way. That's how we do here on the Cohn Zone.
And then we crap on someone's shoes.
Yes, absolutely. You didn't see it coming, Jed, but this was your episode. Get better shoes. You're worth $4 billion.